On the 7th anniversary of our wedding, my husband sent me 1,000 long-stem roses. The moment I came out of surgery, I picked up my phone and calmly told him I wanted a divorce. From the other end came his new lover's tear-choked voice. "Vance, it's all my fault. Please don't be angry." Julian spent a long time coaxing her, then tossed me a single line, "Whatever." I didn't see him again for another month and a half. "Make me a bowl of noodles." It was late at night when Julian came home. The dining table was ice cold, nothing like the usual spread of hot dishes waiting for him. His brows drew together. After delivering the order, he walked straight into the bathroom. When he came out, shower fresh, I was still lazing on the couch, eyes on the TV. He drew a designer tote from his suitcase. "Look at this, do you like it?" The bag was pink, obviously meant for some college girl. Back when he wanted to make me smile, he'd take me anywhere I wished. Now he fobs me off with dull little gifts. I flicked my gaze over the bag, changed the channel, and asked straight out, "When will you have a free slot to finish the divorce paperwork?" Even our anniversary gift had been bought by his secretary, he was that swamped. And whenever we scheduled anything, I was the one who bent. "Don't be like that. Evelyn didn't know you hate roses, she won't do it again." He poured himself a scotch, dropped into the single sofa, lips curled in half a smirk. Evelyn, the friend he'd grown up with, had become his personal assistant right after college. They traveled together, often shared a hotel suite. I didn't blame Evelyn for chasing him so hard. If there were no ghosts in his heart, no outsider's tricks could haunt him. I stretched a theatrical yawn, tears glazed my eyes from the force of it. Seeing me stay silent, Julian assumed the storm had passed. He started telling me our son's latest grades. I only shook my head. No idea. I wasn't hiding anything, I genuinely didn't know. The Vance family prized education. The boy had been tutored at the manor since he was tiny, every daylight are packed. Ironic, my own child, yet I could barely see him. I'd wept and screamed about it, but the Vance clan simply shut the door. In their eyes, marrying Julian was blessing enough. Nothing else mattered. Julian pinched the bridge of his nose. "Show more interest in his schooling. Keep this up and Evelyn will look more like his mother than you." I knew exactly what he meant. The night before, Friday, had been my turn to pick the boy up from Blackwood. I waited outside the gate an hour early, until dusk fell, and still left empty-handed. Evelyn finally called. Eleanor had told her to take Connor back to the manor for dinner. In the background I could hear Julian asking Evelyn if she wanted another bowl of bisque. The memory forced a grin onto my face. "Sounds perfect. I'll step aside and your real Vance can take the stage." Some word must have stung. After a few seconds of silence he exploded, "My patience has limits. Stop the drama, Serena." He had taken only 2 steps away when I drawled after him, "Oh, almost forgot, I just had a miscarriage. A month earlier." The night Evelyn rang and I rushed out to drink on her behalf. A cramp knifed through my belly. I drove alone to St. Camilla's Hospital. The doctor said I'd been 2 months along, but the baby's heart had stopped, natural miscarriage. Strangest thing, when I heard the child was gone, my first feeling was relief. Coming off the operating table, I knew the chapter had to end. In the living room Julian's back was to me, knuckles white around his glass. He didn't ask why I hadn't called. He knew how many times I had, that night. Useless, his phone had rung and rung with no answer. "Just as well," he said. "Proves you're not cut out to be anyone's mother." With that he stepped into the study and, with practiced ease, shut the door. Through 7 years of marriage we'd battled and frozen each other out countless times. Every previous round, I'd been the one to knock and apologize. Not this time. However long he waited, that knock never came. Half an hour later he came looking, but the house was already empty of me. I was Julian's first girlfriend. Back then no one could picture the straight-A ice prince of Eastbrook. Falling for a bar-hopping, cigarette-puffing little punk. Our first meeting was in a foul-smelling back alley, a pack of thugs bullying the bookish kid. I couldn't stand it. I pedaled my bike straight at them and taught them a lesson, accidentally rescuing the shy boy. After that Julian clung to me like glue. He waited at the school gates every afternoon, tailing me block after block. I couldn't shake him. He sent me roses. I soaked them in the toilet bowl and dumped the soggy mess back on his desk. He handmade me a fancy bento box, I handed it straight to a homeless vet. Friends teased me about my rich, devoted puppy dog. Everyone saw we came from 2 different planets. Yet when my drunk father beat me so badly I couldn't go to school, this same boy barged into my house, hoisted my half-conscious self onto his back, and carried me to St. Camillus. While the doctor stitched, Julian turned away, shoulders shaking, wiping his eyes. The doctor laughed. "You're not the patient, why so heartbroken?" Julian said he didn't know, it just hurt inside. He even asked for an EKG to see if something was wrong with his heart. Later, in the ward, he clumsily peeled an apple. "I never want to see you hurt again. Serena, promise me you won't get hurt, okay?" I bit my popsicle, mumbled, and rolled my eyes. "Then will you be my boyfriend?" That day we both blushed too hard to speak. Once I told him a secret no one else knew. Every time my father got drunk and beat my mother, next morning a wilted rose would appear as his apology. So I told Julian, if he ever wanted to break up, spare us the words, just send roses. Just one single rose for me would have been enough. "Don't talk like that, we're going to be together forever," the 18-year-old boy whispered, crushing me against his chest so I couldn't say anything sadder. To keep my father off my back, Julian took me abroad for college. His father, determined to split us up, cut off every cent of support. Back then, between classes we worked 2 double shifts apiece. Our days were nothing but a blur of textbooks and trays and registers. Hard as it was, as long as we were together we always found something to laugh at. Brushing our teeth side by side we'd grin like idiots. We lived in a tiny loft where we fought, made up, fought again, and still woke up to each other's faces every morning. If only that life could have stretched on forever. "Emery, how are you feeling now?" The doctor's voice yanked me out of the memory. 3 days after I'd walked out of the penthouse mansion, my insomnia had turned vicious. Prescription for sleeping pills in hand, I ran straight into Evelyn in the pharmacy line. "Vance, why are you here all alone?" she asked, eyes wide and innocent, then arranged her face into sympathy. "Etienne told me about the baby. Don't be heartbroken, you're still young, you'll have other chances." "Don't worry, there won't be any more children," I said flatly. The moment the words left my mouth Julian appeared, face dark, a rescue inhaler in his fist. Evelyn explained she'd twisted her ankle on the stairs, nothing serious, but Julian had insisted on driving her here, throwing his whole schedule into chaos. When my turn came, I took the little white bag and Julian automatically asked, "What's wrong with you?" I turned to leave without answering, so he snatched the prescription slip. "Can't sleep." "Since when?" "Serena, I'm talking to you. Are you going to keep up this silent treatment game?" He thought I'd stormed out for attention. He had no idea what the past nights had been like. His icy tone drew stares. Impatience prickled me. I kept my voice level. "I'm not throwing a tantrum." My calm apparently looked like surrender to him. "Let me drop you home first, then I'll take care of this," he offered. I shook my head. "Handle your stuff. I'll get back on my own." By home, I meant the fixer-upper townhouse I was living in now. My drunk father had wrapped his car around a tree, and the settlement check, the price of his life, was the only thing he ever really left me. The place I'd once fought to escape had become the only roof I could claim. As I walked away, Julian frowned and started after me, but Evelyn caught his sleeve, suddenly pale. "Low blood sugar," she murmured. He hesitated, then headed for the vending machine instead of me. The afternoon I finished printing the divorce petition, Julian rang. His voice was low and urgent. "The boy's sick. Be at the manor by 6. He hung up before I could ask a single question. I stapled the papers, a thin smile of release on my lips. Inside the Vance ancestral house I found the whole clan assembled for what looked like an ordinary family dinner. Connor sat wedged between Julian and Evelyn, a perfect snapshot of a family no outsider would question. Eyes stinging, I crossed to my son and brushed his cheek. "Where does it hurt, baby?" The miniature version of Julian jerked back, glaring, then looked to Evelyn for rescue. A needle of pain pierced me. Evelyn pulled him close, clucking sweetly, "Connor's fine, silly. Maybe you mixed up your sleeping pills and your memory, Contempt glittered in every Vance eye, especially Tiffany's. In her world I'd always been the gutter snipe who dared marry her prince. For Julian's sake I used to swallow every insult. "Not tonight." I rounded on Julian. "You said he was sick and dragged me here." She says he's fine. Which of you is lying, or are you both just playing house at my expense? Evelyn's confidence wobbled. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off, voice chilled. Sleep with a married man if you like, Evelyn, but drag my child into your catfight and you'll discover I have claws, too. Her face drained, tears pooled. Julian slammed his chopsticks down. All you do is make scenes. The boys had a cold for days. Did you even bother to think about him? You were told 6 o'clock. You kept everyone waiting. If you can't respect the clock, eat in the kitchen with the staff. In this house Julian's word is law. No one challenges it. Evelyn's eyes glittered with triumph behind her veil of pity. Tiffany smirked, brows raised in open disdain. Under every gaze I walked to Mrs. Weeks. When you have an evening free, come to my place, I'll cook for you. I wouldn't let her think sharing their table meant dignity to me. I met Julian's stare and let out a cold laugh. You make me sick. He shot up, grabbing my wrist. Where do you think you're going? I didn't dismiss you. His shameless control snapped the last thread. Let go, this is none of your business. Reading Evelyn's signal, Tiffany drawled, still the same gutter rat, Serena. A pheasant doesn't turn into a phoenix just because it perches on a gilded branch. Julian whipped around. Shut your mouth. In that split second I tore free and walked out, heels ringing against the marble like gunshots. The bruises Julian's fingers had left on my wrist lit a 7-year fuse inside my chest. I swept my gaze across the dining room and parked it on Tiffany's self-satisfied smirk. Want to see what a person with zero breeding really looks like? I strolled over, still talking, lifted her favorite bisque, and nice and slow poured the entire bowl over her blow-dried head. It wasn't out of nowhere, yet no one at Vance had expected the ever-careful daughter-in-law to snap. For several heartbeats the manor went eerily silent. Then Tiffany shrieked, soup sliding down her cheek like beige blood. Everyone woke at once, eyes bulging, voices rising to defend her. A decorous family dinner turned into a fish market brawl. Inside, I felt fantastic. This was life, noisy, colorful, gloriously alive. Except when every decibel is aimed at you, even joy can sag. I own only one mouth. No matter how loud I yell, I can't outshout a chorus. So I singled out the loudest lamb. The moment she swung to slap me, fury fogging her face, I grabbed her hair and stuffed the leftover half-baguette between her teeth. Tiffany's voice died, muffled by crust. Still smiling, I told Julian, that's how you shut up. Makes sense. When the whole clan turned the color of aged marble, especially Eleanor thumping the table with her fountain pen fist and jabbing a finger at my nose, I could tell they still didn't grasp the full definition of no upbringing. I sighed, walked to the corner of the table, and ripped the snow-white cloth in one savage tug. Crash, clatter, splatter. No Vance was spared the flying gravy. People wearing shoes always fear the barefoot lunatic. Maybe because my act was wild yet my eyes stayed calm. No one moved or spoke. Julian and I locked gazes. I spread my hands, light as air. From the day I married into Vance, I've dreamed of doing exactly this. 7 years, long enough. From now on, I don't have to swallow anything. Clutching her chest, Eleanor ordered Julian to divorce me immediately. Before I could thank her for the favor, Julian told the room my nerves were frayed and asked them to indulge me. Serena, clean this up. It's your last chance. Evelyn's jaw dropped, every Vance face echoed her. I nearly checked his forehead. Was the man running a fever? Lunatic, I muttered, pulled the divorce petition from my tote, and flung it at him. Connor, Mommy will visit when she's free. With that, I left Vance without looking back. As the engine caught, the rearview mirror showed Julian sprinting after me, Evelyn on his heels. Blood dripped from a shard cut on his hand. He kept pounding the window while she sobbed for him to get stitches first and talk later. Serena, Serena. He hadn't expected me to floor the gas and vanish in a haze of dust. That night my phone pulsed non-stop, muted or not. At last I yanked out the SIM. When calling failed, Julian WhatsApped me. When had I started wanting out? Was it really over 1,000 long-stem roses? If so, he apologized. Surely I wouldn't junk 7 years for a petty mistake. Don't let a moment's impulse rob our son of an intact family. I considered, then typed, you need to cool off. The same line he'd fed me every time I cried. Within 2 minutes he went quiet. I heard nothing for a week, yet I knew he'd parked near my crumbling townhouse. One afternoon, watering flowers on the roof, I spotted his car beneath the maples, yawned, and went back inside. Though not yet officially divorced, I'd started a new chapter, a part-time register job at a corner convenience store by the park. Years away from payroll had rusted my small talk, but most customers were patient. A college kid with a golden retriever dropped by daily. I watched the dog while he grabbed coffee. Turns out he lives 2 blocks away. Evenings we sometimes walked the mutt together, trading leftovers and stories, becoming easy friends. Near week's end Julian texted, "Come sign papers at the office." He'd always hated me showing up there, afraid my outfit might dent his image. After my shift I dabbed on light makeup and went. He was on a call when I arrived. He nodded toward a chair. No secretary, no coffee. I plopped down and played a phone game until my last life flickered out. When I looked up, he loomed over me. "Ready to sign?" He pushed the agreement across the desk, gaze averted. I read every clause, terms better than feared. Courtesy of late-night internet research, I wasn't a pushover anymore. Transfer the overseas condos bought 2 years ago and I'd drop claims on corporate shares. He blinked, then dialed for a revised draft. As I poised the pen, Julian's hand slammed the page. "Read it again," he said, voice winter cold. "Custody is mine. The moment you sign, you have no legal tie to Connor." The cruelty winded me. I know the statutes grant visitation, but if Vance blocks me, legal becomes a paper wall, and I may never hug my son again. Saying I didn't feel the tiniest stab of pain would be a lie. Yet, no matter how much it hurt, this marriage had to end. Connor would live with Julian, at least his material comforts would stay intact. Give the kid a rich biological father and he's already ahead at the starting line. Julian hadn't expected I could still crack a joke at a moment like this. He let out a cold laugh and told me to get out. "I'm busy, we're done for today." I watched him rip the divorce petition to confetti. I stayed silent a beat, then sneered, "Fine. I'll file on my own. I've had enough of you. Stop, damn it, stop." Julian had never lost control like this. He shadowed me all the way to the elevator, so close even his aides didn't dare follow. "Is there someone new? You put on lipstick for him, didn't you? If not, how could you be cruel enough to abandon our son?" The doors slid open and Evelyn stepped out. She'd been off today. If a coworker hadn't tipped her off, she wouldn't have known I was in the building. Evelyn came from an academic family. To save face, she gently urged Julian to let me leave. The man shoved her aside, brows knitted. "This is between me and my wife, none of your business." Evelyn's face drained paper white. She glanced around at the whispering onlookers and wanted to vanish. Until I arrived, the whole firm had assumed she was Julian's girlfriend. After this scene, she feared the gossip would never end. She ran sobbing toward the stairwell. I looked at Julian and said flatly, "Go after her." I didn't hate Evelyn. The one who betrayed us had always been Julian alone. I reached out to my old friends, Dylan, Ruby, and I used to be nicknamed the Alicat Trio. They'd carried me through the worst days, helping me escape my toxic family and holding me up when I hit rock bottom. Truth was, they'd never lost my number or my address. Once we grew up, we simply didn't want to disturb one another's new lives. I spilled every rotten thing Julian had done. After a few shots, they almost dragged me off to torch the Vance manor. We laughed until we were crying, then cried in each other's arms. Gradually, the sleepless nights came less often. But the calm didn't last a month before Julian showed up again. He waited outside my loft from 3 in the afternoon until 1 in the morning, nearly driving the neighbors to call the cops. I had no choice but to let him in. He'd lost weight. The old cocky spark in his eyes was gone. Mrs. Weeks told me that since I'd moved out he kept returning to the manor. At first Eleanor was overjoyed, fussing over lavish dishes every day. She even invited Evelyn to stay, scheming to push them together. No one expected his appetite to shrink or his temper to turn uglier by the day. Once he tore the storage room apart looking for something, then screamed at the housekeeper when he couldn't find it. A few days ago, in front of all the staff, he threw Evelyn out of his bedroom. They fought viciously. Evelyn cried until she collapsed, breaking her ankle and almost scarring her face. Eleanor, accused by her son of wrecking the family, was so livid she landed in St. Camilla's Hospital. Both women were carried out by ambulances that night. Neither had been discharged yet. As for Julian, judging by the haggard shell in front of me, he hadn't slept properly in ages. Just like me after I lost the baby, the first thing he said was, "I'm sorry." He'd thought long and hard, he claimed, and finally understood why I wanted the divorce. For 7 years I'd had no voice, forever yielding until I was hollow. "I know you've given up on me completely." Hearing that, I shook my head. Disappointment happened 2 years ago. I filed because I'd thought it through. Disappointment is survivable. Despair is when nothing stirs inside you anymore and the calm that follows it. We had been husband and wife, after all, so I said, "Julian, I'm building a new life. You should tidy up your own heart and start yours." He looked around the living room and gave a bitter smile. "Do you remember how I used to pick you up? 7 years, and I still dream of you from back then. Serena, I admit I took you for granted, but I never cheated. You're the only woman I've ever loved." I asked him what he called cheating. "You could lie beside me, then leave because someone else rang. You basked in other women's admiration, yet expected a hot dinner waiting the instant you came home. You know that's not fair, let alone love. We both know what loving someone really looks like." Something seemed to strike him. Tears glinted. "I know, it's all my fault. Give me one more chance, please, Serena, I can't accept this." He asked if I remembered the words I'd spoken in the funeral hall. "You said you'd stay with me forever, that we'd die on the same day and be buried together. You said you'd never leave, have you forgotten? Sweet nothings are always sincere in the moment. Time isn't the villain, fickle hearts are." Because he changed, I had to change too. Just then the doorbell rang. I opened it to find the young neighbor from across the hall. He glanced at Julian inside and asked with his eyes if I needed rescuing. Before I could answer, Julian yanked me back and swung at him. Apparently he'd seen us chatting and decided the neighbor was my new boyfriend. For no reason at all the two men started brawling. I shouted myself hoarse, then finally snapped, "Take it outside. I don't care who bleeds, just don't come crying to me." I slammed the door so hard the frame shook. I never learned how the fight ended. I only know Julian never came back. 2 months later, Eleanor, fresh out of the hospital, called me herself. In a voice gentler than I'd ever heard, she said her son missed me and asked if I could visit when I had time. So I rolled up to Blackwood on my new Harley, leather jacket and all, and parked right outside the school gate. That day, no other parent at school looked half as cool as I did. Kids are easy to please, show them something fun and they're instantly in love. I even took my son for the American fast food he'd always craved but the Vance clan had banned. After we finished, he asked if I could pick him up again next week. I smiled, buckled his helmet, and rode him back to the manor. I hadn't planned to go inside, but Eleanor stepped out with Mrs. Weeks, unspeakable emotion in her eyes, insisting I come in for tea before I left. Connor tugged me upstairs to play a while. I hadn't seen his room in ages and couldn't resist. On the 3rd floor I glimpsed Julian through the study door, mid-video conference. I stood there a long time until my son yanked my hand and I snapped out of it and followed him in. I played with him absent-mindedly, checked the clock, and said, "Mommy has to head home now. If I'm free next week, I'll come play again. Can I go to your place? Can Daddy come too?" Blood is blood, instinct never lies. I wasn't sure if the Vance family had coached him, but his eyes were sincere. "Of course there's a chance, but only you, Daddy can't come. I hate lying to children, I'd rather keep expectations low than break them later." When I stepped into the corridor, Julian was already waiting. He asked, "Hungry?" We'd eaten less than 2 hours earlier, but I studied the new crow's feet at the corners of his eyes and didn't refuse outright. "Yeah, a little." "You cooking?" "Sure, I'll make something for you." We walked to the kitchen dining area on the 1st floor of the manor. No one else was around. He asked what I wanted, I said whatever, so he rinsed rice in a clean porcelain cocotte and set it to simmer. He's always been the better cook between us. I remembered abroad, broken homesick, whining for Chinese food, he'd work days, then hit the supermarket at 7 for markdown groceries and cook for me after dark. We only made kanji when I was sick and couldn't swallow anything else. The memory tugged a smile onto my lips. I didn't rush him, he worked in silence, focused on the bubbling pot, and I waited patiently. For a moment it felt as if nothing had changed. This batch took longer than ever before. Maybe the flame was too high or it simmered too long, but a scorched smell soon filled the kitchen. Julian seemed oblivious. Finally he lifted the cocotte burner still on, set it before me, and ladled a big bowl. Up close I knew it was burnt, but I said nothing and spooned it up. Good. He cared so much it hurt. His eyes pinned me, suspicious. I nodded. He still wasn't convinced, tasted a spoonful himself and nearly gagged. How did this happen? I heard him mutter. He'd even added sugar. Stop, I'll make a fresh pot. He reached for my bowl, forgetting how hot it was, and the porridge splashed across the table, scalding his hand. I frowned. Leave it. I'm full. No, it's awful. Give me a minute, I'll fix it. He wiped the mess while he spoke. His palm turned crimson, then started to blister. I said coolly, save the act. I don't feel a thing. Truthfully, looking at his graying hair, all I tasted was vicious satisfaction. He brought every bit of this on himself. He stared, stunned, unable to fathom how love can evaporate overnight. After I left, he stayed in the kitchen until deep into the night. Not long after, he fell ill, pneumonia first, then he shrank to skin and bones. Once discharged, insomnia set in. Only sleeping pills knocked him out. Eleanor swallowed her pride and begged for extra visits. I ignored her completely. The Vance family branded me heartless for cutting their son off from his child's mother. But children have minds of their own. They won't dance on command. Whenever I took Connor out so he could taste a normal childhood, Julian could only default to silent acceptance. 1 month, 3, 6, at last he faced the facts. Still, he clung to fantasy, convinced I lived in that little overseas loft, popping sleeping pills to dream of the days we'd been happy. In the end I filed the divorce petition. The first attempt failed, the second sailed through once every feeling had gutted out. After the divorce I became a wealthy, independent woman. I never left the fixer-upper townhouse, I renovated it into a cozy nest. A college kid pursued me, retreated politely when I declined. It isn't that I've given up on love, I'm just honest now, and I refuse to trade my happiness for romance. In the departure lounge we girls posed for selfies, switching angles every second, beauty-filtering every shot until we all looked flawless. When a handsome guy walked past we instantly sat up like proper ladies, then burst into giggles. Hey, anybody hungry? Free cup noodles over there. 3 grinning faces stared back from the mirror. Blue sky and white clouds beyond the glass as the plane lifted into the distance. Thanks for listening. Rate today's story 1 to 10, and if you liked it, hit like and share with friends. We can't wait to read your comments. Subscribe for more tales. See you next time.